everyone. Thanks for joining us today for the second Thursday of the month video recording for the 2022 to 23 school year. I'm Meredith Thyssen-Milder, and I'm the physical education consultant at the Minnesota Department of Education. This presentation is a product of the professional development plan designed by the Minnesota Department of Education's Physical Education Leadership Team, made up of state leaders in physical education from the Minnesota Society of Health and Physical Educators, or MnSHAPE, representatives of the Minnesota Developmental Adaptive Physical Education, or MnDAPE, the co-chairs of the Physical Education Standards Committee, and higher education. Our physical education standards are a means to ensure that all students have an equal opportunity to learn the knowledge and skills that are foundational for our students. They provide a clear picture for teaching and learning by identifying essential outcomes for all students to achieve by the end of a grade level, grade band, or course. This word cloud is a great visual that identifies the key concepts in our standards. The 2018 Minnesota Academic Standards in Physical Education were developed by physical educators from across the state. The Minnesota legislature directed MDE to adopt and adapt the most recent version of the Shape America Standards and Outcomes with the guidelines that we would maintain the integrity of the national standards. Our document consists of grade level benchmarks laid out in learning progressions at the elementary, middle, and high school levels. The document also includes 3 appendixes: a glossary of terms, descriptions of activity categories, and critical elements. If you need copies of the standards, you can download them at the MDE or MnSHAPE websites. I will provide the URLs for those sites in a few slides. Originally, our standards were to be implemented by the 2021 to 22 school year. However, due to the pandemic, the Minnesota legislature delayed full implementation until the 2022 to 23 school year. This slide identifies the key topics in the MDE Implementation Assistance Plan. Professional development topics are available online. Our first year of professional development allowed us to offer face-to-face workshops in regions across the state. When the pandemic interrupted those trainings, videos were created to highlight the key concepts in the topics covered in the first 2 years of professional development. This slide identifies those topics. They can be accessed at both the MnSHAPE and MDE websites. This slide identifies the release dates and the topics to be addressed this school year. Our focus today is to talk about best practices in instruction. This slide gives you the URLs of the websites that have all the resources available for the physical education standards. During this presentation today, we will provide a brief overview of Shape America's essential components of physical education. In January's presentation, we took a deeper dive into curriculum and backward planning. Today, we will focus on best practices for instruction. Shape America has identified the essential components of physical education that provide structure for a physical education program. They created a guidance document for the components. We will use this document to break down the essential components of physical education and outline why it is a key element of a well-rounded education for students. This document, along with all documents and resources identified in this presentation, is available on the Shape America website. Defining the essential components of physical education raises awareness for the critical policies and practices that guide school districts and schools in addressing students' educational needs. School districts and schools also must establish the written curriculum that defines what to be taught, guides rigorous instruction that supports the curriculum, and identifies student assessment that will provide evidence of student learning. The essential components encompass 4 fundamental areas: policy and environment, curriculum, appropriate instruction, and student assessment. Effective practices within each of these areas support the delivery of a quality physical education program. Today, we will examine best practices in instruction. The expected standard for student-centered physical education instruction involves a wide variety of approaches that allow teachers to organize and deliver the content to students in the most effective way possible. Strategies that support appropriate instruction include addressing diverse developmental levels through differentiated instruction, employing a wide variety of instructional strategies, aligning learning activities with identified student objectives and outcomes for learning, and providing students with the opportunity to demonstrate content and skill mastery. Differentiated instruction involves providing choice and voice to students so that they may meet their needs and help students achieve the desired learning objectives. This is easier said than done, but it is a must-have in physical education. Without this instructional practice, some students will not achieve physical literacy. Let's look at addressing diverse developmental levels through differentiated instruction. Remember, the goal is for all students to participate in physical education in the least restrictive environment. To achieve this, modifications and adaptations must be built into lessons for students with special needs and different abilities so they can meet objectives. Teachers are trained to know that students have different learning styles, experiences, and interests. The root word in differentiation is different. Differentiation asks us to tailor instruction to learners' diverse needs. There are 4 ways to differentiate instruction: content, process, product, and learning environment. In an ideal world, all instruction would be differentiated for all 4 elements. If differentiating instruction isn't currently occurring, try to implement one of the 4 elements. If already doing this, see if another element or strategy can be implemented. Next, the 4 elements of differentiated instruction will be explored. The first element is to differentiate by content. In physical education class, there's a wide variety of ability. A teacher should differentiate what is to be learned, build on the strengths of individual students while helping students identify ways they can improve their movement and physical fitness, provide multiple opportunities to demonstrate what they've learned. A good format is learn, practice, demonstrate, and more practice. To differentiate by process, employ a wide variety of instructional strategies, effective questioning, and flexible groupings to make learning accessible to all students. When creating instruction, allow for gradual skill building. This involves 2 strategies: tiering and grouping. Tiering involves modifying ways for students to learn, practice, and demonstrate movement skills or fitness skills according to their own readiness level, ability, and interests. For example, students participating in a lesson on striking with a short element can be divided into 3 different flexible groupings based on skill or readiness, and as their skills progress, they can move to a different group. Group 1 will have the opportunity to practice skills individually or with a partner and would have more supervision from the teacher in breaking down the cues for the specific skills required for striking with an implement. Group 2 will work on demonstrating critical elements within each skill with a partner or in a small group by participating in a small side task with a smaller ball. Group 3 will have the opportunity to apply critical elements of the skill in a small-sided game, such as 2-on-2 tennis. Grouping is a tactic where students are grouped together in a variety of ways in order to deliver instruction, such as small group or partners. For example, in a weight room, students will demonstrate proper resistance training technique and are grouped based on what exercise they are interested in demonstrating. Group A will have the opportunity to work on demonstrating an upper body resistance exercise with free weights. Group B will have the opportunity to work on demonstrating an upper body resistance exercise with an exercise machine. Group C will have the opportunity to work on demonstrating a lower body resistance with an exercise machine. Other ways to differentiate by process vary by activity, but could include things such as varying the size of the ball, varying the distance from the target, modifying rules to allow for more success or more practice of a skill. You could use visual signs or graphics, could conduct frequent check-ins, or breaking instruction into smaller, easier to understand skills. To differentiate by product allows students to decide how they will demonstrate competency. Station-centered activities provide choice and support gradual skill building. In a station or circuit format, allow students to self-regulate and self-monitor by letting them choose their challenge. Differentiating by process and product builds confidence and increases motivation and movement competence. The fourth element of differentiation is the learning environment. A physically and emotionally safe learning environment increases learning for all students and fosters respect, consistency, and fairness. Get to know students' interests, previous experiences, and goals related to physical literacy. Work together to determine what success looks like. Create cooperative learning experiences instead of competitive learning experiences. Create a culturally responsive setting. Thoughtfully build relatable cultural references into lessons. Understand your own as well as students' cultural identity. Now let's examine employing a wide variety of instructional strategies. To assist with employing a wide variety of instructional strategies, Shape America has created a document entitled Appropriate Instructional Practice Guidelines, K-12, a side-by-side comparison. This document outlines developmentally appropriate and inappropriate practices in elementary, middle, and high school physical education classes, and is organized into 5 separate sections: learning environment, instructional strategies, curriculum, assessment, and professionalism. The guidelines are organized into a grid, which includes a side-by-side comparison of appropriate and inappropriate practices at all 3 levels. This side-by-side comparison is then organized into sections of areas of concern for physical education. The Appropriate Instructional Strategies document is full of great information, but can be a lot to take in at once. To familiarize yourself with the document, pick one section to further explore, then pick another one. Rate yourself in each of the areas as doing well or needs improvement, or if there is a practice that needs to stop. Strategies that support appropriate instruction also include aligning learning activities with identified student objectives and outcomes for learning. Our state standards and benchmarks serve as the greater goals and objectives that make up units. The lesson plans created then serve as scaffolding towards meeting the standards and developing the skills outlined in the unit plan. There are 3 steps for using backward planning to create lessons. First, identify the desired outcome of the lesson. Identify the standards and benchmarks that serve as the goal and objectives for the lesson that's being developed. Next, determine the evidence of learning. What task will student perform to show they are achieving the lesson's goal? Third, design the activities that will provide students with practice in preparation for demonstrating achievement of the objective. The lessons plans created serve as the scaffolding towards meeting the standards and developing the skills outlined in the unit plan. The final strategy to support appropriate instruction is providing students with the opportunity to demonstrate content and skill mastery. We'll discuss opportunities to demonstrate mastery in more depth in the assessment section. However, it's worth mentioning here as well because it is a part of delivering appropriate instruction. Each time a student is asked to demonstrate a skill or apply knowledge, it is an opportunity to provide feedback. When students receive constructive feedback from their physical education teacher, they learn more about their performance and the degree of success they are attaining on an ongoing basis. The corresponding student assessment also is a way to gauge effectiveness in delivering instruction and facilitating learning. Shape America has created this handy checklist to help schools take inventory of the school physical education program. Download a copy of this and the guidance to complete the checklist. Complete the appropriate instruction section of the physical education checklist by marking each item as yes, no, or in progress. Make notes in the comments section regarding the current state of each item. Use the guidance for completing the checklist. Thanks for listening to our presentation regarding the essential component of best practices in instruction in physical education. Tune in next month as we discuss the next concept in the standard implementation process, formative and summative assessment. I again encourage you all to utilize the available resources available to you on both the MDE and MnShape websites. These videos are intended to assist you on your standard implementation journey. I wish you all good health and happy teaching.